Hello, Bay Area. This is your local Gold Rush committee or something like that. Woohoo, go 49ers. You got any idea what their team intro or celebration or anything is?
I have no idea. They are one of the few teams in the NFL that I don't think have a chant, or if they do, I have no idea what it is.
Yeah, no, I just know like the foghorn and that's it. Anyways,
Hmm.
I'll get right into what I have to say about these guys. As for what they did last season, San Francisco 49ers were just a tremendous blocking team, and they have been for the past few years. Their zone run plays and play action off of them are very successful, and one of the reasons for that is because the blocking assignments on there are very hard to mess up. Fred Warner on defense is an absolute stud at the middle linebacker position. He's tremendous, and he goes all over the field in pass coverage, run defense, everything. He's great. Brandon Ayuk is so much more athletic than I remember him when he was playing in college. George Kittle's just completely unstoppable when he's on the field. And I love that they just find guys at the wide receiver position that are extremely talented at one thing or another. Like good examples are Debo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk just being really high level open field players. They're really good in those situations. Then Check is my favorite fullback in the league for obvious reasons. The whole team defense and really the team as a whole, yeah, it's a lot of the one of the reasons this team is so good is just because it's so balanced all over the roster, who contributes and all that. But just the defense as a whole is great at forcing turnovers. Raheem Mostert's insanely fast. He's one of the fastest running backs in the league, and I'm always impressed with him. And this run game and the blocking and the short pass game is just really fun to watch. Even though you don't say that very often about a team, just that it's fun to watch blocking, they really do have great running schemes a lot for their players, and just the team as a whole. So that's all I got for what I thought of last season for them.
All right, yeah, you touched on a lot of what I said, but my first note, and this is just something that you have to talk about when you talk about the Niners, is injuries just ravaged their team.
Yeah,
They they should have been way better than they were, but the injuries just stifled what that team is capable of. And one thing that I think this is a positive for that team to look at is even with all those injuries, the media still thought that they could like win a bunch of games and go to the playoffs. And not to compare Kyle Shanahan to Bill Belichick straight up, but just that's what the media does when teams have good coaches. Is they're like, oh, well, this guy could coach them up and coach them to win these games. So if you're looking at it from a future standpoint, especially to develop the young quarterback that they brought in, for everyone that's in the NFL world to have that kind of faith in Kyle Shanahan, that's just great for an organization to have a head coach like that.
yeah,
Uh, Looking at the games that I watched, CJ Beathard played in two of them, and he looked way better than Nick Mullins did throughout the season. Just in those two games he played, he won one and lost one. I I don't know why they didn't try to retain him as their backup quarterback. Both their backup quarterbacks are gone now. Uh, it's just weird. But CJ Beathard seemed so much better than Nick Mullins, but he played in only or started two games. He came in relief for Mullins when they benched him sometimes, but it's just very, very weird to see CJ Beathard perform at the level that I didn't think he was capable of since the Niners barely play him.
yeah,
Uh what their offense does great, uh, along with their blocking and zone running, is just they instead of running back by committee like something that teams do, they do that, but they also have like wide receiver by committee too, and they recognize whose hands are hot. The only like mainstay superstar player of that offense is George Kittle. So he's going to get his touches, but everyone else is just if you're hot, we're gonna get you, we're gonna scheme you open, and you're gonna get some points on the board for us. And I love that. I love an offense that is flexible with what they do. They don't just have one guy where this guy's going to get us the 75 yards downfield for us to score by himself.
mm-hmm.
Uh, they use Brandon Ayuk in so many fun ways. It is just great to see the motions that they have him run, him getting handoffs, him lining up in the backfield sometimes. It's just like so much fun to see coaches and coordinators that take risks and try to have fun and innovate in ways that other teams aren't. And for the other teams that we've talked about here at the top of the draft, they don't do that because their coaches are bad and they don't like think to do fun things. So it was very refreshing to see a 6-10 team like the 49ers do some fun stuff.
I like words like creative more than just fun, because fun makes it sound like it's goofy and not gonna work.
Well,
no, creative.
At 6-10, it kind of is fun.
Oh, okay, fine.
No, it is creative is the right word though. Very innovative stuff that they're trying to do in San Francisco, and I loved watching their offense play. And with all those notes on the offense, there's not really much to say about their defense besides it is just so solid. Even with Nick Bosa and other star guys on that team leaving, DeForest Buckner being traded last offseason, they're losing a bunch of solid starters all around that team just with injuries. And they're still keeping the team in the game and trying to get that team wins. Most of the wins that they had this season are because of the defense. And just you have like a guy that should be a third stringer quarterback in the NFL, like being your starting quarterback. It's really hard to win games then, even if you have an all-star defense.
Yeah, I agree. So with that, can we move on to some statistics?
Sure.
I mean, okay, first thing for me is like I could point out each of the different running backs and what they all did, but I mean, it's just because of the scheme in the O-line is absolutely tremendous. It's basically plug and play. Whoever you wanted to put in at running back is going to do well, and they drafted 2 running backs, and they'll probably be successful for that reason. They can basically move on from running backs as frequently as they want because they've just been so successful running the ball regardless of who's in the backfield. I mean, even putting receivers back there, right? So then with that, the only guy I do want to mention that we didn't really talk about, and I think it's Tevin Coleman, and he's on the Jets now, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he was the only guy who like just did not do well in his time on the field this last season. So maybe that wasn't as great of a signing for the Jets as we thought. I'll just put that out there. Brandon Ayuk had a great season, though. He had 60 grabs, 748 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Healthy Kittle is one of the best players in the league. Don't even need to put a position tied to him. Just one of the best players in the league. Props to them for rotating return men all year because they were trying to figure out who they wanted to return the ball. But, I mean, I don't think they ever really came onto it. But at least they were trying something different. I mean, that's a lot of the good stuff with this team is they're willing to try things that a lot of other teams aren't. Robbie Gould was okay. Not tremendous, not terrible, somewhere in the middle. So I think you could stick with him for a while. But actually, they had another kicker come in at some point and kick some field goals. So I'm not sure what that was about, if they moved on or if they're just trying to give another guy a shot or if Gould got injured at some point. I didn't look into it, but we'll see what's up with that. Fred Warner, 2 interceptions, 6 passes defended, and he had 125 tackles on the year. Dre Greenlaw was second on the team with 86 tackles. Jimmy Ward and Marcel Harris had 2 forced fumbles each. And Kerry Hyder on the defensive line, 8.5 sacks, 10 tackles for a loss. And I would imagine that if you had somebody like a healthy Bosa that could help boost everybody's production on the defensive line, someone like Kerry Hyder may look even better.
Yeah, for sure. My stats that I only had one thing. Because I know that you're very efficient with what you do and you cover a lot of what I want to say. I didn't want to waste ink in my pens writing stuff down that I knew would be said before me. So the one thing that I had that you didn't cover is C.J. Beathard did not throw 1 interception.
Wow.
He had 6 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and they only started him for 2 games. That's ridiculous.
I was thinking about like I looked at the quarterback stats and then I was like, what am I gonna get out of this? They're not on the team, neither of them. I mean, I could look at Garoppolo's, but
I don't know if there's. I like what the Niners organization does and the decisions they make. Just C.J. Beathard not playing a majority of these games where Garoppolo was not there. Just mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, I agree. And if you didn't check out our short episode on Jimmy Garoppolo starting for the San Francisco 49ers, you should do that as well. Go back about maybe 7 or so videos somewhere around there from this one, and you may find it. But yeah, As for acquisitions now that they made in the offseason, they added Alex Mack at center, which is interesting. He's kind of up there in age, but I mean, geez, if he's as good as he used to be, oh my gosh, this offensive line just getting better. That's not really fair. Samson Ebukam's a really fun guy to talk about. I mean, he's just, I love the name, so I'm always going to enjoy watching him just so I can hear a commentator say his name. Mohamed Sanu is back on the roster, I feel. This is kind of strange. I feel like he was on the team at one point, but I don't remember him playing much, and now he's back. That's kind of weird. I don't really know how that's going to work. But then they also got Wayne Gallman, which we just went over the Giants, and Wayne Gallman played very well for them. So that's a good signing to me. And Nate Sudfeld I added just because that point out their third string quarterback. It's not a big deal, but it's just because they replaced other quarterbacks that left.
Like I said in the Jags episode, man, Urban Meyer's just trying to ruin the NFL by bringing C.J. Beathard to Jacksonville.
Yeah, I mean, that quarterback room is now stacked. Like any of those guys step on the field and I'm threatened.
Even the emergency quarterback now in Tebow.
Yeah.
It's stacked. They got tight ends that can play quarterback.
It's unbelievable, the talent they've got there.
Oh, man. The only extra addition I have on my list that you did not mention is Arden Key. He produced decent numbers for the Raiders last season. Just more interior D-line pressure that the Niners are going to be throwing at teams.
Yeah, that's probably a good replacement considering they lost Solomon Thomas. But here's the guys I have for losses. Marquise Goodwin, C.J. Beathard, Trent Taylor. You know what's funny? The year this team went to the Super Bowl, I swear it was like, literally, I remember listening to like guys who follow a lot of football, right? They follow a lot of football, and they're talking about the Niners before the season, and it's like, what are we worried about with the Niners? And it's like, okay, hang on, buddy. They're talking to each other back and forth. I can't remember exactly who it was, but I remember listening to it and then being like, can you name a receiver on the 49ers roster? This is the year they go to the Super Bowl. And it's just like, they've kind of always subbed guys in and out. But honestly, Trent Taylor was like, at that point in time, the year going into the year they go to the Super Bowl, is the guy that actually like stuck out the most in that receiving core, which is funny for the time being. But now he's leaving, so I just thought I'd tell that little funny story because it was a Super Bowl team where people were legitimately having trouble knowing who any of their receivers were. And then they lost Jerick McKinnon as well, Solomon Thomas, Kendrick Bourne, Tevin Coleman. All these guys left to other teams. Then they actually have a decent amount of guys, too, that haven't signed anywhere but are like decently relevant names. Nick Mullins hasn't actually signed anywhere, which, according to your digestion of how he played last season, that's kind of understandable. But also Jordan Reid, injury-plagued. Ezekiel Ansah and Deion Jordan are just names from the past that are recognizable, so I threw them on here. And then basically, like, all the guys that played, like, from what I remember, the significant snaps at corner for them being Richard Sherman, Jason Verrett. And I feel like at a point in time, Emmanuel Mosley was even getting significant snaps, and all those guys are unsigned at this point, so those are the guys that I wanted to point out as their losses.
Jordan Reid retired this offseason, I think, so that might be why he didn't re-sign or hasn't signed with the team. And then the only extra guy I have that you didn't mention is Ziggy Ansah, just another pass rusher on that team. And it's weird because last offseason or 2 off seasons ago, I was really clamoring for the Bills to sign him, and it just seems like he has become so irrelevant over the past 2 seasons. It is insane.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm happy we didn't sign him. I don't know if I kind of remember that, and I didn't really want him at that point, so yeah, I'm still kind of happy. I got you on that one. Don't get you on everything, but I got you on that one. The draft. The draft is, yes. I like this draft. I like this draft from them. Do you like the draft?
Yes, I do.
Sorry.
Wow, very unprofessional.
Yes, I know. I'm still an idiot for not turning my notifications off. I'm so sorry to all our hardcore fans. Up to 20 of them now, or maybe even 21.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez, we're getting big. But anyways, here we go. Trey Lance. He's a size and physically talented quarterback running the ball unlike any others at the top end of the draft. I mean, that's one thing that you can't get with any of the other quarterbacks at the top. So you have to point that out very quickly. The other guys can run the ball, but not the way he does it so physically. And then doing that, he's still got the physical ability to sling the ball down the field. And, I mean, with that combination, you got to love the idea of him getting bootlegs from Shanahan when Jimmy Garoppolo isn't playing, if Jimmy Garoppolo isn't playing. And eventually that will be the case, but it may not be this season, which is fine. But I think that he'll still, I don't think that he'll have trouble having real success in the NFL, even if he is forced in early on in this season due to injury, which we hope doesn't happen. Aaron Banks, they consistently add depth to the offensive line, which helps them maintain an above average offensive line at all times. So I'm happy with this. Trey Sermon in the third round. He's a great example of an Ohio State running back in that he can do a little bit of everything, just not anything exceptional. I mean, there's some guys that come out of Ohio State and do things at an extremely high level, but he's just really solid in like all areas, and no doubt is a great fit for San Francisco because the running success is great there if you have any sort of ability, really. Ambry Thomas is a physical presence at the cornerback position, but not just tackling, because I've said in the past, like, I don't love tackling corners, but he actually brings that physicality, like, down the field in playing contesting receivers and picking off passes, which I like. That's a much improved version of using the physicality as opposed to just being like a run defending corner, which I don't fall in love with. Jaylon Moore is another offensive lineman. This time it's a offensive tackle. I'm pretty sure Banks is a guard. So once again, just adding to that line depth that keeps their O-line above average. I like that. And then this is tough. Diomordo Lenoir. Sorry about that. Not as excited about him, but they lost a lot of corners, so it makes sense that they pick corners considering they lost like 3 significant guys, as we said. And then Talanoa Hufanga. We both love Talanoa Hufanga. And this pick is why the 49ers are a team that we can be confident will be good, because they always like find guys that will be like solid contributors. And this is a compensatory 5th round pick, and they pulled this guy out. When he gets on the field, he'll play well immediately, no doubt about it, especially in San Francisco. And then Elijah Mitchell, he's running back depth for them. And like I said, this is an interesting pick because this is like the 4th running back they have on roster that I can think of off the top of my head. But if there's a team that's actually going to use 4 running backs, it's them. And just for my description, I just said he's very off-brand Zeke Elliott, just very off-brand version of him, and like kind of many downgrades as well. Undrafted free agents, there were 4 guys that I saw, but none recognizable.
All right, me going through their draft class, I mean, Trey Lance is my favorite quarterback in the entire draft. I didn't have him ranked number 1. I had him number 4, but I love everything that he brings to the table. He is just so physically gifted in a lot of this, like everything that you want in a quarterback. He shows the potential to be excellent in it with his athleticism, arm strength, accuracy, all of that. Him going to a smaller school, and the Niners hopefully planning to have him sit for a whole season to learn the playbook, adapt to the NFL, adapt to better competition, adapt to bigger, stronger, faster guys in practice. I think that's going to be great for him and great for the Niners in the future. Aaron Banks, he's just a mauler, man. And for him to not even be a starter on this team, because I looked at their O-line depth, he's going to be a backup. This dude is going to start, and he is so solid, which is insane. But it's going to add to that, like you said, that Niners solid offensive line. Of if a guy goes down, next man up is going to be little to no drop off from him, which is awesome. Trey Sermon, you and I both really liked him when we talked about him in our running back episode before the draft. it was a weird pick for me for the Niners because the Niners, it seems like their running backs that they choose or just any skill position, it's either they'll go for a guy that's really good in one category. Not either. They will go for a guy that's really good in one category and then they'll hope they can improve everything else. Trey Sermon is just a jack of all trades, master of none kind of guy. I am solid in everything, but I don't have like breakaway speed. I'm not super great
I
in the
probably
pass
won't run
game.
over a defensive tackle.
Yeah, stuff like that. And it was a weird pick. It was a weird pick for the Niners. But I love Trey Sermon as a running back. And if anyone's going to use him properly, I wouldn't doubt it would be the 49ers.
So,
Ambry Thomas. Well,
sorry, quick question. I want to ask you before you move on because I'll forget.
mhm.
So, like, did you want them to go for a different running back that was like more of a maybe something like just exceptionally good at one thing, like
Yeah,
Chuba Hubbard?
just,
Did you want like the speed guy?
yeah,
Because I feel like they've went with a lot of speed guys recently, and they
mhm.
maybe kind of want to balance it out because like Mostert's their speed guy, and then they've got like Gallman, and now they've got like these three backups basically that are a little bit of everything, and Gallman, Sermon, and Mitchell. But Mostert will be like the breakaway guy, while these other three are kind of like more balanced. It gets away from what they've kind of been doing, but you wanted them to have a second speed guy or something else.
Just a guy that's exceptional in one category. One guy that I really thought the Niners were going to go after was Demetric Felton because he's a wide receiver that's moving to running back and he has excellent hands. And I thought that that was something that the Niners like pass game as a whole could use. And maybe if they want to move away from using Brandon Ayuk in the backfield, in those formations, just to reduce him getting hurt or any type of possibility, bring Demetric Felton in. It's just the Trey Sermon pick seems like I love the pick. I love the pick. It just seems weird. Doesn't seem like a 49er pick to me because with their skill positions, they usually go after guys that are exceptional in at one thing and then hope to build the rest of the abilities up. And you could see that in guys like Trent Taylor, who coming out of college was a great route runner. Everything else was not great though, and they wanted to develop that more. So
Fair.
Ambry Thomas, I forgot a lot about him, but I did have him ranked in my top 10. He was number 10 for me in my corners. When I looked at my notes for him, I was like, oh, I gotta go back and watch him. And I don't disagree with my notes that I had. He comes like downfield when they have him blitz so fast. He's very quick. And something that I said to you and during that episode, because I know I said it to you, it was in my notes, was it doesn't look like he loses a lot of speed when he flips his hips. And you're like, oh, I gotta watch this guy. And now you finally did. So I don't know if you agree with that or not, but it just seemed like he's very exceptional with his speed, and he doesn't really waste a lot of motion. And when he flips his hips, he stays like the same gear that he was in.
Yeah. I gotta say, I wasn't like, when I watch these guys for these videos, I'm giving it like really quick looks. All the plays I saw for him were basically plays he didn't really have to flip his hips. Maybe one, and all I can say about that is just that he didn't get beat on the one play I saw on a deep route, and it actually was intercepted.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, he's very quick and twitchy guy, which is something that's usually said about defensive linemen. But
I agree with that.
If there's a place that could develop him, I mean, the great corners that have played for the Niners and that they've had, I mean, as long as he doesn't have injury problems, he should be great. Jaylon Moore, line depth, I mean, just prevent any kind of drop off if any type of injury can happen. Because, I mean, hopefully the injuries come and go after last season. They don't have to deal with that again. But, I mean, it's the Niners and they just have that injury bug that stays in that facility. So, I mean, anything to prevent that. Lenore, he was my number 25 corner. He was my bottom guy out of the 25 I watched. I didn't really have much positive to say about him besides his hands are great. He has a lot of one-handed interceptions. But, I mean, he went to Oregon. Guys that go to Oregon have a soft spot for me just because, because of you. So.
Well, okay. We'll leave that
Not
at that.
anymore. Not anymore, but And then Talanoa Hufanga. I mean, this would be an A++ if I was grading picks. Just the best safety in the class going to them here. The dude does everything right. He is Troy Polamalu Jr. He's out here making plays, running balls back. I mean, they could have him play any position on the field, not just defense, offense too. The dude is an athlete, and he is so good.
Yeah. You know what I want to say here that is like so fun about like a guy like him is that it's awesome when we have like teams, not only teams, but like teams and schemes that we trust that then pick a guy in the late rounds that we really like. Because we can like a guy in the late round and he can go to like a crap team and then it's like, well, geez, that take was wrong. Well, I mean, he wasn't helped. This is very exciting to see. I'm really excited. I just hope that he can get on the field. I hope like other guys don't beat him out in camp because I feel like if he gets on the field, he'll be really successful. I feel like he should be able to based off what we saw from him, but I can't guarantee anything because we're not the ones watching practice.
Yeah. And with their last pick, Elijah Mitchell, another running back, he was ranked number 13 for me in my pre-draft rankings. And what I had to say about him was he's just all power, keeps his legs churning. He's a goal line machine. I mean, anything that was inside of 5 yards, Louisiana always scored. So, I mean, I would think that Trey Sermon would be kind of that guy for them next season because he's just a bigger built guy. But maybe they bring in Elijah Mitchell just he could be their guy that steals all the touchdowns, is just a fantasy ruiner.
They just love the fresh legs. Honestly, that's all they're about. They don't. Yeah,
we're keeping 6 running backs on roster, same amount of wide receivers. Just
some
guys out every down.
You're not completely right. They've got 4 running backs that we know of right now that we can remember, and then they've got Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and Kyle Juszczyk that they wouldn't be afraid to put at running back either.
Well, I mean, you could put Kittle behind Juszczyk then. That's your goal line package right there.
Didn't I talk about that at some point?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that would be fun, but it's just like, nah, we can't do that. That's too overpowered.
Yeah,
you ready?
They'd win every game then.
Yeah, you good to get into the actual season for them?
Yeah, for their schedule. I mean, talk about winning every game.
So
my record prediction. I mean, this is pretty bold. This is pretty bold what I did.
Okay, well, am I first?
Yeah, go first. You've been doing everything first here.
Okay. So, you complained about it before with saying that for another team, I can't remember which team it was, or you at least mentioned it. Maybe it wasn't another team had it, but you mentioned it because some teams do have it. Starting out with these 2 road games. Well, I mean, you can start out with 2 road games, but geez, if they're cupcake opponents, how much does it matter? They're going to Detroit and Philadelphia, WW. Then they come home for their home opener. They are going to be very excited to get back into their own building, I have to assume, since they started the first 2 games on the road. Assuming that they have 2 Ws, because we're assuming that those 2 teams are very beatable for San Francisco. They've also had the Packers' numbers in recent years. I would say W for the Packers either way, but I'm feeling even more confident for W against the Packers because I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to be the quarterback, so even more so. I like how that game's coming. Then they've got another home game against Seattle. Like I said, I don't know why, trending down on Seattle. Just stuff that's recently been going on with the organization. Don't like it. I don't think that they're going to be one of the upper 2 teams in this division. I think they'll be one of the lower 2 for sure. So I think Seattle's very beatable at home. That's a W. Arizona, I also think the Rams are, if that wasn't clear, I think the Rams are the other team that's really going to be competitive with San Francisco in this division for this season. I think they can beat Arizona, even in Arizona. I think Arizona is a very beatable team, so we'll go W there. Indianapolis, you're more into the idea of Carson Wentz having a lot of success than I am. The Niners are the home team in this. That gives them an advantage. A lot of their tough games come at home, which is lucky for them. I'll say that. And I don't love Carson Wentz, and for that reason, I am going to give them the W here as well. Now, week 8 is the first game that I'm going to say is a toss-up. But if Andy Dalton is still playing quarterback, W here as well. So I mean, we've got him pretty hot. But I mean, I'm just like, they're headed to Chicago in week 8, and this is actually on. This should not be a 1:00 game. This would be a fun game. Thing is, it's all about if Justin Fields is playing. So I get why it's kind of questionable. But yeah, no, I'm really interested in when this game comes around. Hopefully Justin Fields is on the field. That'd be exciting to watch this game. No matter if Jimmy Garoppolo or Trey Lance is the quarterback, because I like this team either way. It's nice that they have two options. And this is the first game that I really could see them having like a significant chance of losing. It's not to say that they couldn't lose other games, but a significant chance of losing because they got to go to Chicago. It's an earlier game because it's going to be a 10 a.m. West Coast time game. So that's tougher for them. Then they got Arizona again next week. This time Arizona's at home in week 9, so that's a W for them. They play on Monday Night Football against the Rams that I believe is going to be the two teams fighting for the top of this division. I don't know what the Rams record will look like at this time, but I'll say that I do think these will be the two best teams in the division, so I think this will be an exciting game. As I said before, I don't really feel confident picking a team either way, but luckily when they play tight twice, I can give one win to one team and a win to each team and not have to go two toss-up games, so that's what I did. I give the W to the Niners here because the Niners are the home team in this game. Then Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville's up and coming, but the Niners still very impressive roster. W pretty easily. Minnesota, same thing. I think roster significantly in the advantage of San Fran. Then at Seattle in week 13. I don't know why, but it's a divisional game in December. They've been so hot with all the games I've said so far for them that I gotta find it's just very hard to win as many games as I would have been putting them at if I gave them the win here. So I didn't give them the win. I said this is more of a toss-up. It's at Seattle. It's in December. They could have a fluke game in here. You can't be perfect all the time, so toss-up for that one. Week 14 against Cincinnati. Still, I mean, the great thing about having a team with a great roster is you don't have to even think about a lot of these because it's the talent on the team as a whole is just there's so many positional advantages they have over the Bengals in week 14. That's a W. Same thing against Atlanta. Positional advantages. W. Then week 16. I don't even remember talking. We did our schedule release. I don't remember talking about this game. This game is exciting. Thursday, the 23rd of December. They go to Tennessee. That is exciting to me. This is going to be a really fun game to watch. That's a good Thursday night football game. And I will give them the L here. That's the first straight up loss that I've given them. But I mean, Tennessee's also a solid roster, and I mean they have two of probably arguably the best players at their positions on the offensive side of the ball, which makes them a challenge for anybody to beat. And just traveling across the country may make it a little more difficult for the Niners. So I could see him dropping that game. I mean, it's not embarrassing to lose that game at all. It's just you're going to lose some. And then Houston, week 17, I think that's a W. Once again, roster significantly better. But like I told you, since I gave them the first Rams game as a W, and I don't know how I wanted to give each team a game, considering I think both rosters are really solid. I give them the L against the Rams the second time in week 18. That gives me 13 wins, 2 straight up losses, and 2 toss-ups. So 14-3 record prediction is a pretty substantial over for this team, considering they went 6-10 last year, and the fact that their over-under is 10.5. So 14-3 is 3.5 games above. I'd feel pretty good about that, honestly. The only thing that I could say may prevent that is if we're if the new defensive coordinator, whoever it is, I'm not sure who's stepping in, just really screws stuff up for the defense and they have to rely almost solely on their offense. But they've got plenty of good names on that defense. I feel like somebody should be at least able to put something decent together. And now they've got 2 quarterbacks who can really play. And as long as those 2 guys stay on the field, this team should have a chance in almost any game they play. Yeah, I think that's basically all I got. If maybe I'm forgetting something, but I'll mention it after you're done if I do. So 10.5 is the over under, by the way. Just
All right,
reiterating
10
that.
and a half is the over under. Cool, cool, cool. Yeah, I have a lot of W's on my schedule sheet for them. At Detroit, at Philadelphia, those are just two easy wins to start off the season there. And then home, first home games against Green Bay. Like you said, San Fran has had Green Bay's number for a while, and just the momentum coming into that, two wins there, I think they get that win straight up. Seattle, I also agree that Seattle is not going to be as solid as they have been in previous seasons this upcoming one. So that's going to be a win. At Arizona, Arizona is going to be I shouldn't say the worst team in this division because they'll be biting with Seattle for that. I do think that no team in this division will have a losing record, but maybe Arizona will.
You see,
I don't know.
the thing,
There's no way to go 8-8, so there's no way for me to really get 8-8 helps me guarantee that a little bit more.
yeah,
But
yeah, no, I know what you mean. The thing that's hard to, I don't want to say that because, like what I could see Arizona or Seattle going like 1-5 or even 0-6 in the division, which means that they would have to win. What is that? They would have 11 out of division games. They would need to win 8 or 9 out of 11 out of division games to be above 500. So I don't know if I want to say that. I feel like you're right though. None of these teams are going to be terrible.
yeah, I do agree. Usually in every division, there's one team that's a punching bag every season. So it's gonna depend on which team that is, but it's gonna be between Seattle and Arizona. But at Arizona, that's a win. They go into their bye week with they have an early bye too, but 5 straight wins going into their bye. That's gonna be great momentum for them. Uh, Home against Indy, that's a dub. I mean, I think Carson Wentz is going to do well for Indy, but just the rosters, like they're both playoff teams, but their rosters are just too different. And San Fran executes their offense to such a high caliber, with Jimmy Garoppolo in the driver's seat, and we haven't seen Carson Wentz play a down of football yet for the Colts. So there's that. At Chicago, I mean, like you said, this depends on who's the starting quarterback, and I give straight up wins and losses, and I don't trust Chicago to actually operate their franchise well. So I'm just assuming Andy Dalton's still going to be the quarterback for them here at this point. So that's a W for the Niners, and even if he wasn't, it's still going to be hard for Justin Fields to win games. But I can see if Justin Fields is the starting quarterback going into that game, there's more of a possibility for them to win it than there is if Andy Dalton's the quarterback. So there's that. Home against Arizona, that's a W. Home against the Rams, I also split their games against the Rams because I think those two teams are very evenly matched. So I gave them the win at home. At Jacksonville, that's a win. Home against Minnesota, I think that's a win. Just Minnesota's roster is very depleted. Just I don't really know how to explain it. I don't think Minnesota's going to be very good.
It's weird. Minnesota's got talent at a lot of positions, but they're I don't know why. It just doesn't feel like it ever really comes together. I mean, sometimes they make small playoff runs, but it just never really works out as well as it should.
I think it's just, for me at least, I think it's just them having Kirk Cousins as their quarterback.
I know yeah. You said wins above replacement last time. I mean, this is another thing that we should really talk about at some point outside of just this video is the concept of like how many teams really should be looking to move on at QB. And I think it's a lot more than other people would say.
Yeah, yeah. But dub at home against Minnesota. At Seattle, I can definitely see why you gave them the loss here because late season divisional late season divisional games are tough, but just with the momentum they have, not losing a game yet with what my prediction is, I cannot see them really taking a game off or like trying to. Granted, all division games are rough, even if you're a team like them, and the Seahawks haven't won a game at this point, just hypothetically, I still think you can't go into divisional games like trying like, oh, this team's bad, we'll just, take care of business, blah blah blah. You go into divisional games trying to destroy the team you're playing against. So
Yeah.
I think they keep that mentality that they've had all season and pick up a dub there at Seattle. At Cincinnati, I love Joe Burrow, but he's not going to be able to do much against that team, especially with no Penei Sewell blocking for him. Home against Atlanta, I mean, that could be a fun shootout, but I mean, it's not going to be because the 49ers defense is just too good to allow Matt Ryan to spray the ball all over the field.
I mean, it was a few years ago, if you remember. We had that week 16 shootout that was fun a few years back, and I definitely could see that happening again. But yeah, I like San Fran too.
Mm-hmm. And then against Tennessee, they pick up their first loss of the season. Those two teams match up really well, and I can't see the Niners getting a win against them. But at Tennessee, I'd have to give, just with how evenly they match up, I just have to give home field advantage as the X factor in that one to give Tennessee the win there.
Yeah.
So that's their first loss, and I do like their last 3 games of the season and how it's like 2 really good teams, and then the Los Angeles Rams to end it. No, but just having Houston squeezed in there in the middle of these 2 like really good teams, playoff contending teams, Super Bowl contending teams, it's laughable. It is so laughable to have Houston there.
The only sorry, I just need to point this out. The only extended break they play after besides their bye week is this. They come off Tennessee and play Houston. That is just so mean for the Texans.
Yeah, and I mean, with that extended break, you could see that carrying into their Week 18 game against the Rams there, and then maybe getting the win, but I'm splitting it just to be safe. Because I think those 2 teams are very evenly matched, and they will be the 2 top teams in the division, fighting for the playoff spot. So I have them going 15-2 and really busting that over under.
Yeah, you're only 1 game ahead of me though. I mean, it's not that crazy. I mean, without doing toss-up games, honestly, I'm probably where you are because like. Those are the only those are the only 2 games I actually picked straight up losses. But that's why I add my toss-up games in there because I feel like I'm going to pick these teams straight up, but like I want to try to like not be too ridiculous because I realize that they have to lose a game that we're not going to expect at some point, right? Mm-hmm. It's just almost too rare for that to not happen. And then I said that Rams game last week of the season could be really exciting last week of the season. It also could be that the Niners already have their division locked up and it doesn't matter, so they just let the Rams win that game too. And the other thing that really helps them with this schedule is the fact that since they got so injury destroyed last season and they lost games because of how many injuries they had, they were the 4th place team in their division, so they got an easier schedule because of it, and yet they may have the best roster in the division. It's just like, it's like that type of thing. Just that's why you got to actually look at opponents and not just say, I just think they'll win this many games, because it's like, it's such an easy schedule because they were the 4th place team last year.
Yeah, it's insane.
But we agree. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I mean, we haven't had any team close to this type of record prediction, right? I mean, what was the best we gave teams like 10 or 9 wins, some teams.
The Cowboys are the best. You gave the Cowboys 9 wins, I gave them 10.
Yeah.
That's the closest we've gotten to something like this.
Yeah, this is an insane jump. This is like supposed to be an end of like a last prediction type thing, and they're sitting over here just outside the top 10 draft picks in terms of where they actually sat before they traded their picks around. It's wild. You all set?
Yeah, I think we can cut it here.